Okay, but what is the link? Sucks. Don't want to blame it on Sharon. Hey, who joined? Okay, never mind. That was somewhere else. Can you join it through this? Did I email? Let me email you. No, wrong Hangout. Oh, are anybody in there?
I'm not seeing it anymore.
Right.
I just see a little shaking.
Oh yeah. Once you get in.
Alright, I'm here. First one here.
Oh really?
You are the first one here, ready to join the video call.
Okay, join it. Just join it. But I don't think anybody else is gonna.
It says I'm the first one here. So.
This is. Oh well. I think. No, I need to email you something.
Okay. I'm just gonna test to see if my sound works on headphones real quick.
Yeah, you need to go see if you can join this thing. I'm gonna mute myself, but I don't know how to do that.
Alright, I'm exiting out of the other one.
Hi Dave,
Hey, the Binder, how's it going?
good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Super sorry I'm late.
It's okay. I can understand.
Yeah. So I think we're just gonna wait for a few more people, just because I know it was just trouble setting up. So I'm gonna, yeah, I'm just gonna wait for a little bit. So hang on tight.
Okay.
Hey, Linda. We're just probably waiting a few more minutes just for any other stragglers to arrive or for me to clear up the confusion, what have you.
So Dave, how did you come up with this logo or mascot rather?
Oh yeah, so like, so essentially, well, nobody gave any responses for like the name of the project,
Mm-hmm.
so I just ended up thinking through like, what the app is gonna do, and so like, how in like cartoons or I guess like even in like kind of literature, like there's a muse or there's some authors that describe kind of like their inspiration or their whatever to be like an imp or like little creature, and the whole app is to like remind you of important dates and stuff. So and important, like another, like a short form of that is like imp, right? Important. So I was like, okay, that's a little kind of like MailChimp. I'll make it like EventImp, and then I just like Google image searched an imp and try to find one that kind of fit something that was friendly and not like scary. And then did some minor Photoshop editing and just kind of made that.
Uh-huh. But, this is sort of makes scary as well as friendly. If you look at the shadow, look at the
Yeah,
eye.
that's true. But I mean, it's just the shadow. I don't think
Yeah.
there's like it's like demonic or anything.
Uh,
It's pretty friendly. Uh,
it's good. It's good.
yeah.
Uh,
So I just wanted to. So I'm going to share. Essentially, it's that coding.com link.
mhm.
If did you? I guess maybe you signed up, or I don't know, somebody signed up.
I did
But
that.
you did. Okay.
Mm.
So you have I guess, a different handle on Slack. Yeah, if people can do that, just because like, the initial, it gives me a little bit more storage space,
Mm-hmm.
and I think for our purposes, everybody's going to have like a local development environment anyway, but just to kind of make everything more. Uh, like more consistent across everybody's operating system or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What that site can do is allow me to share the actual editor. And if I want to, I can also give you guys like write access, so then you can also you can edit along with me, just like in Google Docs.
Okay.
And but in the beginning, before I give that access, I can also just share that screen, and I can just show you my workflow. So basically, that's probably going to be how most of these coding sessions will be
Mm-hmm.
about once we set everything up. And then, so I'm probably like 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, or it's already been like 13 minutes, but in 2 more minutes, we'll probably start. Maybe people will join, maybe people won't. I mean, I guess when people come in, just welcome them so I'm reminded, because I'm not going to be looking at the broadcast screen.
Okay.
Uh, and then, but any case, this is going to be recorded so people can still participate after the fact. But I'll spend 15 minutes essentially going through setting up, kind of the local development environment, and kind of just going through the steps in my blog post, and the reasons why I did it that way, and the reasons I, kind of install certain things a certain way. And then I'm going to go and set up the online cloud development environment, and then we could go in and basically just get a sense of how everything's moving, get Ruby up and running, and running the web server, and just getting that initial hello world up.
Okay.
And then we'll probably go into figuring out how to integrate Mongo, because that's what we decided last time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, with Rails, and even like, I come from Python background, so with Django, like the object relational mapper, which essentially allows you to write like Ruby code or Python code, uh, and it allows you to execute SQL code with Python or Ruby or whatever. that's typically geared towards like SQL languages, right? So non-relational databases gets, you need other libraries for that. So, we'll go through the MongoDB website uh, and kind of walk through that and see if we can get something going on.
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right. Okay, another 2 minutes, and then let me make another blast on the Slack channel. Maybe wake up people from the West Coast. I don't know.
Sure.
Well, what's your time difference?
I am in +3 GMT.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you're like 8 hours ahead of us?
It's
Or 8 hours ahead of maybe?
Yeah, it's 7:17 p.m.
Yes. Oh, because there's 7 hours. Oh, it's because we have daylight savings time. But normally you would be 8 hours, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Linda, I was hoping to get maybe some feedback about how best to communicate to the community, because sometimes like if you're not on Slack all the time, and I guess like if you don't join the forum thread, you're never gonna get notified with email either. So I don't know if you figured out a better way to get people to like at least communicate messages to people.
I guess Slack is good. I have Slack app on my phone, and yep.
Yeah, but Devinder, you're just like I guess you're really on top of it. I think for majority of people, I don't know if Linda had more experience.
Right. So let's hear from her.
If she's around, I don't know. Maybe she just.
She just sent a message. Yeah, mostly use Slack.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Okay. So I'm gonna do this. Whoops. Here we go. My screen. Okay. Let's go back. All right. CodeQuarters. All right. So I'm just gonna talk through the local development environment real quick. So hopefully more people will join us as we go on, or in the following weeks, because otherwise it won't be as fun. But basically, what I wrote here is because I essentially upgraded to Windows 10 on a tablet that I have, and I just remember how like horrible it was essentially to set up kind of Unixy development environments on Windows. And more often than not, like if people don't use Ubuntu, like people like as a daily driver, people probably not everybody has a Mac. So in order to kind of standardize the process, and even on like Ubuntu, there's no such thing as like Homebrew, which is like OS X's package manager or whatever, and I mean they have like aptitude, I guess, but not everybody's like comfortable, and like things work differently because like you sometimes have to like still download the build libraries and the development libraries and stuff on Linux, and then on Windows it's like nothing exists. So you just have these installers, and you just have a bunch of folders all over the place. So basically, just to keep it all kind of contained, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of VirtualBox, but basically it just allows you to run a virtual machine, and so basically it allows you to run like Ubuntu or Debian or Fedora or CoreOS or basically all the stuff that web servers, like when you're renting stuff from Amazon or DigitalOcean or Heroku or whatever, that's what they're running, right? To basically allow kind of a mini virtual environment on your local machine. So then everybody essentially just has this one. But you're not basically just writing everything on the command line. The files still live in a folder, right? So basically, you can still edit it with PyCharm or RubyMiner or Eclipse or Sublime Text or or Emacs or whatever you want to use, you can still use that. But when you're talking about like all the application dependencies and stuff, and when you have to go into the command line, you SSH into the VM, and everything runs on the virtual machine, right? So it basically allows everybody to use whatever tools they want to use, but still keep all the kind of dependencies and the application kind of in a consistent standard kind of format. And it's also good because then essentially if anybody comes into issues, like we're all running the same thing, and people are much more able to kind of like address those issues as they come up. And the other thing that comes out of it is because of VM and VirtualBox and Vagrant, which is kind of the helper application to spin up and spin down these virtual machines, so you don't have to like constantly like open up VirtualBox and whatever. You can just basically store it on like an external hard drive, and as long as you have VirtualBox installed on the computer and Vagrant, you just carry that virtual machine anywhere you go. So it's like it's highly portable, and so it's just going through everything, and was kind of a process, but it's very linear. So I think anybody can kind of can do it. So my first post is really describing like where my head was at, right? And then like the second part is really just installing the things. I chose to edit everything in Sublime Text. I used to use like big IDs like you see here, PyCharm, or you don't see here, but or do you? I don't know. Yeah, PyCharm. I had like IntelliJ, all that kind of stuff. I really just want to clean everything up and make things simple and lightweight. Sublime Text is great for that. The other thing is if you're on a Windows machine, and are any of you guys on a Windows machine? I think I know one of you is. Okay, I'm just going to assume that people are. Like, there's no SSH client built into Windows. But if you install Git, which everybody does, Git comes with an SSH thing. So there's a little bit of configuration that you have to do on Windows. But essentially, you just go through all this, and if you follow my instructions, more or less, you will get Django running, because I just did it with what I was comfortable with. So this is Django. And then, okay, so what we're going to do now, or in like a few minutes, is talk about like the cloud development environment. So this is where I'm at now. Do you see this workspace I'm coding? I guess so, you do. I'm going to maximize this too. Okay, thank you, Linda. Darn, maybe I should add Tammy. Okay. The thing is, it sometimes takes a while to spin up. And I've been having a few issues I've been talking to support about with this, but all in all, okay. So essentially, what you have here is a Ubuntu 14.04 version of Linux that's running on the cloud. Essentially, I think it's just an Amazon Web Service thing. So you can do your typical command line. Your home folder has these folders right here, right? If you go to your root, it's typically what you see in a Linux distribution. And if you change directory into home, I think there's one stock Ubuntu. You don't want to touch that, I think. And there's one that's your username. Okay? So if you guys log in, what I can do is I can share with you my sessions. So What does this allow? What does a read only do? Yeah, I'll just allow you to do stuff, to unwatch. What does unwatching do? Okay, yeah. Anyway, let's just do that. We'll do that now, and then I'll allow you to unwatch later. So then, if I start that session, so you guys might have to chat me your username, and I can add you. Whoops. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to. Oh, hey Jackson, welcome. Yeah, I know. You know what you do, Linda? Just like keep on spamming the email me again, um, and it works. Wow, CentOS, dude, that's. Yeah, I like waited for about 2 hours, and I still didn't get that confirmation email, and so then I just like spammed the heck out of it, and then it sent it. So. Uh, oh, nice. So let's see. What is this? Nice. Okay. Hey, Russ. I'll add you right now. Does that work? Wait, what? I think I have to. Oh, there we go. Add symbol. Okay. Okay. Hey, Russ, can you, is like my microphone on? Like I'm wondering if this session also is like a Hangout-esque thing. Because then I might be doing like two things at once. And it's like, okay, probably not. Because I can't hear you. So, okay. El Patlo. Let's do this. Okay. There we go. Buggy software. I mean, okay, no, that's fine. DS. Okay. So talking about Linda's, oh, there isn't on Windows. Essentially, yeah, like there's an article that either Ars Technica or something wrote about how Windows PowerShell. Oh shoot, I might be losing. This might be pausing. Oh, what's this? Okay, I don't know. But there's this article that basically, so on Windows, there's the command line or the command prompt, CMD, and there's also PowerShell. I think PowerShell is kind of the more like advanced developer like shell solution these days. And there are talks about them being able to port over some form of SSH natively. But there's just a lot of things that Windows lacks. There's other things that there's really good things that Windows has, but you know you have to download like Visual Studio and it's like huge, like 15 gigs or something like that, and it's just like I'm not even going to use Visual Studio, so like what's the point? Okay, so are there anybody else that I need to add? Because I don't think that everybody here is on the. So Dan.
Try to do is just dpinata 6988. Since I'm right here.
D Pineda. Okay.
There you go.
What? No. What? This one 6988.
Yep.
Free accounts are restricted to only one guest. Wait, I don't want to do a video thing. What is it? Yeah, but I'm not doing a video thing. What is this?
Wait, is that
Wait.
icon on the top?
This is where. Hmm. All right, I'm gonna try to refresh this and see if that affects you guys at all. So, okay, just as a word of note, today is a lot of setup, obviously. We're probably not going into into the weeds just yet. I'm hoping that by like 1, we'll be able to actually start writing something in Ruby. And you know, I haven't really looked, as you can tell from my tabs. I'm also trying to read up on it because I don't come from a Rails background. I don't come from a Ruby background. So I'm hoping to essentially pick it up quickly and just kind of throw something together, and then have everybody else kind of chime in, and we can all code on this together. But there's been some obviously technical issues. So let's just try to figure that out so that we're all on the same page. I appreciate your patience. Did that kick you out?
I don't think I was in it to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Six.
Um, All right, guys, I'm doing it. So close your eyes. Just kidding.
Dude, I could just like see from the stream for now. And you can just...
Okay. All right. Well, I won't do this now. Sorry, guys. I'll figure it out next time. But for the people that are on now, okay. No, it's okay. Let's just try Jackson real quick. Jackson. All right. Yeah. Linda, I'll try that. Let me just see if there is like a. I'm gonna kick you. Okay. And add Jackson in. No, I think it's just something where it's okay. Let's just not worry about this. I think it's just or I should say this. Let me turn off the session. I'm gonna redo this. I just need to make sure I have all your names. I have all that. Okay. I'm just gonna restart this one real quick. Yes. Okay. Sure. Okay, Russ. Where is it? Junior. Let's add you again. Patmo. Okay. We have to do it all at once. Before the servers figure it all out. Am I missing anyone? Yes. Yes. Shoot. Tell me if I'm spelling it wrong, Depender. The DS stop? Maybe it's DS stop. No, they're gonna figure it out. Shoot. Yes, Jackson 120. All right, I think that's everybody. Let me know in the chat if I'm forgetting anyone. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. I think that's right. Okay. Cool. All right. So that's that. All right. Okay. So we're ready to start the next part of this. Okay, so I already did a bunch of stuff, and I just want to go through some of the. And by the way, I think you guys don't all need to be muted. It feels weird just talking to like a blank computer screen by myself. It makes me feel crazy. So feel free to unmute, especially if you're already in a quiet kind of environment. Discussion is definitely more helpful than silence, I guess, for me. So, and if anybody has any questions, probably those who are, let's see, yeah, those who are probably either watching on the live stream, you probably want to either just chat me on Slack, and any of you guys that are on the Google Hangout, it's probably better, since you're already added on this shared thing, to chat me directly through here. So, okay, basically the setup here, once, I guess if you set up VirtualBox or if you set up and Vagrant, is going to be very similar because you're going to SSH into the machine and then you're going to end up in kind of an like a Ubuntu environment, all right? So let me just move the terminal down here. So so basically what I did is I just, they have already this thing called application, so I'm just going to use the default. And in there, I essentially just created just 2 major folders and the folder for this for this entire kind of Hangout project. So if I go into CodeQuarters right now, you can see we just have one kind of project up, and that's just that's all on the Git. So if you want to git clone here, so let me do that actually. I'll just redo the whole thing. But if actually, I will not do that here because this is kind of all set up and nice, and I like it. I don't want to change that up. I'm going to move to backup. Okay, git clone. Right, so that's what you do. And then in here, if you go to CodeQuarters, whoops, and then you go into the project directory. Okay, so there's this thing called in Ruby, and mind you, Linux distributions all come with a version of Ruby. So if I go which Ruby, you'll see actually Ruby version. Huh, how did that happen? Oh, because I'm in this directory? Crap. Alright. If I go which Ruby, this should be actually the system one. No? Okay. I did some configuration. I'll show you what I did. Okay. So for you guys that don't know, the the command line you can customize through a file called .bashrc on like Ubuntu or Linux type distributions. On Mac, it's .bash profile. So you can do a lot of stuff like change the color and customize how things like how your prompt looks like and all that kind of stuff. But basically, let me just describe, like coming from a Python background, there's a tool called Virtual Environment that essentially it's all to help developers with dependency management. So, if you started an application and you needed some sort of like library or dependency, with Ruby, I think it's just gem install, right? Whoa, did someone close that? I need a terminal session. Okay. Okay. With Ruby, it's like gem install something. Okay, my thing is like really crapping up, so I'll just talk. But like, imagine like you started a new application, and when you gem installed it, it's like the most recent version, but like somehow there were some breaking changes in that recent version, and your old application doesn't work anymore. So there's this thing to basically try to contain everything or at least manage those dependencies. So like versioning is not like a big deal. So like in Python, what happened is you have this thing called like a virtual environment. And virtual environment just basically copies some, the Python version and just contains it in a single like root folder, okay? Um, for Ruby, okay, they have a package manager called bundler, okay? And bundler essentially, why can't I? Am I closing your windows or anything, guys?
I'm getting an error message.
You're getting an error message?
Yeah, and it says the prompt me to close the tab.
Okay. The prompt is what?
When you have a tab open for the bash RC directory,
Yeah.
and then another tab pops up saying error occurred. Please close this tab.
Oh, I see.
I think it might be so many people like actually in the tab.
Yeah. All right, guys. This kind of really defeats the purpose. Anyway, I guess like I'm gonna close this session because I think that's screwing things up. I'll definitely figure out a better way the next session that we have. But since this is just set up, we don't really need to collaborate just yet right now. So I apologize. All right, let's figure out if this clears everything up. Exactly, something did go wrong.
I have that on my screen too.
On a separate note, do any of you guys have opinions on whether we should stick with Angular? And Russ, I mean, feel free to join the Hangout because, I mean, the live stream is cool, I guess, but it's really for, people that can't make it to the Hangout. So, it might just be worthwhile to have everybody in one place since, coding obviously doesn't work. Well, Linda says React. And Linda has, she's really into this silent Hangout thing. So, she's really taking that all the way.
I was about to say maybe she doesn't have a working mic.
Oh, I see. Okay. Why? All right. This is just annoying. But is there any other thoughts? I mean, I guess the thing with Angular, it was Can in the last Hangout that suggested that he was learning the mean stack, and then and that's Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node. But we don't really have to be tied to that per se. Oops, that's why. All right. I'm gonna stop screen sharing, and you'll just see my face for now. Is there any other thoughts regarding what we need to do for a front-end framework? If we need a front-end framework, I mean, we could just use simple jQuery and just do everything in Rails, but maybe it won't be as exciting. There we go. All right. Yes. So, going back. I mean, I guess we could think about it. Okay, other people can think about it. React is cool. There's other stuff. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Let me go back on the topic of Ruby and gems. And by the way, if you guys are already like Ruby experts or Rails experts, like please help me out. Like I'm definitely not an expert. You know, the whole point of this like Hangout and this CodeQuarters initiative or channel is just to explore new technologies. So I'm learning just as much as you guys are. So feel free to chime in. But anyway, so what I was saying is with with Ruby, they have a package manager called Bundler. Okay, and with Bundler, you have so if I open up the gem file, you can say that like, okay, the source they'll get all the gems from rubygems.org, and then I want gems Rails. Okay, so that's what I want here. If I go into EventImp, this is basically what happens when you initially run Rails. Okay, so so if I were to delete this folder, I can simply just run bundle install, and it will install everything in this directory that I need in this directory. Yes.
Would you go Rails scaffold way, or you'll be setting up everything on your own?
You know, to be honest, I haven't really even gotten that far. I'm going through this thing about the scaffold. Can you talk about, so Depender, do you have any experience with Rails generate scaffold? Like what, can you describe to the team like what it might mean?
Sure, but first a disclaimer. So I'm not at all an expert in Rails or Ruby. I've just started with it. So I can share whatever I've experimented with it with. And okay, so like even you don't need to create a directory. Let's say CodeQuarters is your directory where you'll be keeping all the projects.
Yeah.
So what you can do is in CodeQuarters directory you can write Rails generate scaffold, then the name of the project. Okay, so this would generate a very basic MVC structure. So all the directories, everything would be created. So this is one way of doing. Then Rails generates scaffold, and after that you can even give what all. How would you design your database, or how would you model this thing? Let's say if you are creating a application which would record name, address, and age. So you can give these three fields. By default, if you don't specify a data type, it would be string. So if you have to select a data type, like you don't have to write anything for name and address because both would be string, then age has to be an integer. So if I'm not wrong, it is age space colon integer or something like that. So then it would automatically create a view also, which would have these three components.
So scaffold basically auto generates a view from like your models, like a view and a controller from your models.
Yes, it would generate all three things. All three things.
Okay. So I definitely can see that as like here. So you know, they're just making a simple, like they're calling it a toy app, but definitely after they run this, right? Yeah, I can see this. Look, it says DB migrate. and it says, it creates something here with
Right.
active record. And then all of a sudden, so this is where I kind of was like, wow, this is kind of like black magic a little bit, because it's like you just jump right to, oh wow, now you have users, you have like a REST API like almost immediately, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's the concept of scaffold, but let me just go back to talking about. Oh wait, so you're saying that you don't even have to create this directory?
No.
Well, I think it's okay. Let me just do it this way, because so right now, the reason I did this way, and chime in anybody else if you think I'm like this is not it's too basic for you or what have you. But basically, I just deleted that file, and all I have are these gem files, and these gem files are just basically created when you run bundle init or something like that, right? You have to install bundler with gem install bundler, but after that, you just have that. I didn't really go into, I think I maybe skipped through a few things when I was initially describing like virtual environments from Python, and the whole thing with how this website kind of crashed on me. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that later. But basically, let me just go straight into kind of this Rails portion right now, and I'll revisit the other topic. So what I like to do is when I do bundle install, like, so I don't know, for some reason, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Ruby developer, like a Rails developer, and it's like, okay, use Bundler, and Bundler handles a lot of things. It handles like the version, it knows exactly which ones you need for this specific project, and it bundles it all together, right? So I'm not sure because I haven't gone through the entire like production pipeline, but I don't like having, essentially, I don't mind having multiple copies if multiple copies are essentially encapsulated by my project directory, right? So I like to actually set everything locally. So when I do bundle install and I do path, I'll just call it a gem set because there's actually some command line tools that creates this thing called gem set. I'm just calling it gem set, but essentially this will install Rails, which we saw in the previous gem file, into a folder called gem set in this current directory. So just wait, and essentially bundler is just fetching the gem information. So this is kind of like homebrew if you're on Mac. This is like apt-get. These are all packages that are just essentially downloading and compiling, so so you have it on your machine. So we have to wait a little bit. I already have this in the other folder. I didn't want to waste our time by just having you look at it like a blank screen. So I just started a new session. That I like it this way because it's clean. I like what I see here in GemSet is exactly what I specified for this specific project. Like it doesn't install it or save it in some other path on your machine. I know what I'm getting. I'm in full control of this project. So I don't know if later on when you're actually deploying your Rails app to production and you run something called bundle package or something like that, where it pulls all those dependencies in one folder. So it defeats the point of doing it this way. But at least for now, until I figure it out, when 3 months down the line, this is kind of my opinionated way of setting up my dependencies. Because I mean, what's the harm? If I figure out the other way, I could just delete that folder like I did over here, right? Okay. So anyway, so I'm back in the backup one. And now a new folder came up, and it's called GemSet. So if I just list what's in GemSet, you see it goes on forever. It goes on, and it says, okay, here. So all these are essentially the dependencies that Rails requires to run. Okay, so when I gem install Rails, it gemmed install all these other things because that's what Rails depends on as well. So it pulled all those in. So then I can run bundle execute Rails new EventImp, and I want to run skip bundle. Whoops.
Rails.
I know, I saw it. I think it's skip bundle. There we go. Yes. Okay. So what that did is basically just created your project directory for EventImp, which looks exactly like the current setup in the Git repository. So if I change directly into EventImp, list it, and I run. Oh, the thing is, I ran this thing called skip bundle. By running Rails new and the project name, it automatically runs a bundle. Runs a bundle install in this directory. What I want to do actually is just use the previous gemset directory that I created in the parent folder. I just realized then if I didn't do that, it would just repeat itself. So I would have like kind of a local gem installation here, and it wouldn't be locally tied to the app. So if I already had a folder, like one directory up that had like a contained local directory of all my packages that I needed, I should just use that. So then I could just so then I do bundle install path / gemset, and what this will do. Now it will install all the stuff that Rails needs into the previous gemset directory in the parent folder. And because bundler is kind of awesome, whenever you do like bundle commands, it'll know where to pull it. So you see here, bundle gems are installed into home, Daveho, backup, CodeQuarters, EventImp, gemset, right? And the thing is, this doesn't, essentially, if you're coming from a JavaScript background, I don't know if this is the right way to call it. Maybe it doesn't even matter. It's a moot point, but it doesn't, to me, pollute like the global scope. So essentially, my operating system, all the stuff that my operating system depends on, like it's not, I don't have a bunch of random gems all over the place or 5 versions of Ruby going on. It's just essentially it's just all encapsulated in this one place. And if I want to delete it, I can delete it. And if I want to recreate it again, I can do that as well. So that's why I did it with this process. You don't have to. It's just the way I did it. So now I think if I did Rails, help me out, Depender. What is it? Like run
Rails
server?
generate?
No. I think I just want to do
Rails
the
server,
Rails server. Okay. Because it's a cloud thing, I think I have to run it on something like this. Oh yeah, let's bundle Rails. Really? Okay.
Bundle exec.
Oh yeah, wow. Okay.
But this is only if you are on a cloud environment. I tried Cloud 9, and I think that also, there also I had to do like this. Bundle exec.
Yes. Well, if you use bundle, why is this? Oh, I know why. Because it's not. That's not the way you do it. It's like it's port 3000. Here somewhere. Sorry, guys. You should also be looking Rails server. There we go. Yeah, -p is the IP address. Okay, there we go. -b. Yeah. Okay. So now I need to look at my like URL or something like that. Preview this puppy. No, it's not it. There we go. That's the URL. So actually, this, if you don't know, encoding, it comes with this web thing, and it has this index HTML, and that's when you go into the URL, it's this hello world. And if you see, You can write things and all that kind of stuff. But if I went to port 3000, my Rails app is running. So, and if I went back to IDE, you see that there was a 200 OK that happened from a GET request at index here. Oops. Okay, so now it's time for like questions because I went through a lot and I probably jumped around way more than I expected to, and this stream probably isn't as coherent as I would have liked, and it'll definitely probably get better. But does anybody have any questions about like how to do it? Should we all kind of break and try to set it up in our own kind of either local environments if you want to follow my tutorial, or you can even set it up on your own coding instance. If you already have that open as well, you can try that. I can talk a little bit more briefly about what I was talking about with the virtual environments. If there's no questions, I can go and take 5 minutes to talk about that virtual environment kind of consideration I have. What do you guys think?
For me, my setup is already done on this CentOS that I'm using.
Sure.
So I'll continue with that most likely.
So do you do things differently, Depender?
Sorry?
I mean, do you do things differently, or do you think that you do a similar thing?
Yeah, like I have dedicated a partition for CentOS, and I'm working on that, so I don't need to virtualize and all. So it's fine.
Yeah. I just think it's nice to be able to spin up and spin down. You don't have to go through the trouble of setting up an entire operating system on disk. So it just makes it very flexible. Okay, so if nobody else has any other opinions, does anybody have opinions? Nope. Okay, if anybody wants to interrupt me, you can, but otherwise I'm going to just take 5 minutes to kind of explain the virtual environment kind of stuff from Python and how it kind of relates to what I did with Ruby and also with Node. I mean, I think it all has to do with, oh shoot, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me share my screen. It all has to do with my, like, I guess, OCD about encapsulation and like not trying to just have a bajillion different documents or files in that installed in places that like I'm not aware of, right? It's part of the reason why I really enjoy Mac, and part of the reason one of the negative points about Windows, because whenever you run an installer, it just goes through, and it can install in like a bajillion different places, and you have no idea what the heck just happened. But with Unix and Mac, it's like everything is just a document, or everything is just a file. So typically a lot of things are packaged together. The thing with Python, with virtual environment, is also to manage essentially multiple versions of Python. So maybe when Python 2.7.6 was released, that's the version you downloaded. But what happens with the update, like 2.7.7, 2.7.7.8, blah 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 blah, right? Because you have those circumstances, you want to be able to kind of switch from one to the other pretty quickly, especially if one project depends on a certain version of Python. You never know, like weird things happen with these interpreted languages based on kind of version number, right? And also dependencies. when you install packages with certain things, depending on what kind of packages you're using for certain projects, they might differ in terms of versioning as well. So we talked a little bit about that with bundler for Ruby. With Python, it's PyP or pip. So it's a very similar rationale. If any of you come from a JavaScript world, JavaScript, I love how JavaScript did it. Basically, it's npm install, right, or npm init, and it creates this node modules like folder right in your local application. And all the dependencies go in that. Like, you know exactly when you install something where it goes. And if you want to install it on the global scope, you just throw a flag like -G, right, and it'll install into the global like node version thing. But these virtual environments, and I'll open it up again in bash RT. Expand it. And it's a lot of this is default. This is the only stuff that I actually did. So basically, it's installing RBEnv, PyEnv, and NodeEnv, just because these are the three languages that Python and Node I'm comfortable with ish, but they're all essentially the same thing. So if I type in RBEnv, it's this GitHub repo, and essentially just making things clean, painless Ruby upgrades and bulletproof deployments. Okay. And it works with just how paths works and shins. You can read a lot about it here. But essentially, installation is essentially just a git checkout. So you just do that, and that just installs it into your home directory, right? So it's home/.rbn, okay? And then you just run a simple little kind of if statement about setting, like adding the executable to your environment as an environment variable called RBEnv. Okay, so and then you just allow it to run with this if statement here in Bash. And what it allows you to do is run RB. Oh, and by the way, the other thing is because not all Rubies are the same. There's JRuby. There's, as you can see, watch, install list. There's a bunch of different kind of Rubies available, right? So depending on your project, where these are default Rubies, okay, it could vary. So RBEnv and subsequently PyEnv and NodeEnv do all the same thing. It just allows you to install quickly multiple versions, and allows you to set in your project again which Ruby version you want to use, right? So if I do RBEnv versions, see that I'm using the system Ruby. So I do Ruby -- version, it's 1.9.3, okay? But if I CD into the application, CodeQuarters 1, right? And then I say Ruby version. You see it's 2.2.3. Why is that? Because I believe, let's see, RBEnv versions. It's set by, yes, this .ruby version. So if I ls list everything, you see that there's a file called Ruby version right here. So if I open that, I just put the version number, and whenever I enter that directory, RBEnv knows to change the executable to the correct version of Ruby to use. And so when I do gem installs, it doesn't install into the system Ruby. It which it's not going to do anything. I mean, it's in the system, but it installs into a separate directory managed by RBEnv. So if I go to env versions, you see that it has a version number here. And this is a directory with all essentially Ruby, right? And it just makes things like very easy to understand. Like, you know which version you're running on this project. Maybe a different project, when there's an updated Ruby version, you know what to use there. And it just creates, essentially an API or some abstraction to help you manage those dependencies. That's what it's all about. Yeah, pretty much. So RVM is like RVM, but it's much lighter. So I used to actually use RVM, but I started reading a bunch of stuff. Let me share my screen again, I guess. By the author of RVM. So RVM, so what happened, it's kind of crazy. There was some drama. So apparently, like when this guy came out with the GitHub repo and did something like this, he got this ultimately got put on like Hacker News, and then the author of RVM was just like, F this, like I don't even know why I do this anymore. And then and then this guy Stevenson like reached out and be like, no, I respect you so much, like I don't know what the community said or whatever, but please, like, don't go or whatever. And then the community rallied behind and like pitched in and donated some money to help continue RVM development. But essentially, RVM is just much lighter, and it doesn't maybe pollute like certain things. I mean, I guess you could read about it. It doesn't need to be loaded in your shell. It doesn't override any shell commands. It does not have any configuration files, So it's more specific to doing one thing and doing it well. Yeah. Does anybody have questions? And just like last time, like, can I get a sense of where everybody is in terms of their development expertise? Yeah, I think we should. Um, and by the way, Linda, I'll talk to you later about adding contributors.
So coming to the progress about learning.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, I started with the Rails tutorial a couple of months back. I reached almost till chapter 7, but then I realized I'm not at all confident with what I'm doing. I don't know. It was sort of magic, some of the things. So then I decided to start with Ruby.
Okay.
So that's what I did. So right now I'm reading a book called Well-Grounded Rubist. That is what I'm reading these days. And then also parallelly, edX course is going on,
Yeah.
ESAS, yeah, engineering software as a service, so which is based on Rails. So some of the chapters are good for introduction. That's what
Right.
I'm reading. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so what I plan on doing, and Linda's right, I think everybody should try to go and clone the repo. I'll try to set up contributors, so clone or fork the repo, whatever, so that we can all collaborate. Because I don't propose to be an expert in this, and I'm also learning myself. This Hangout was really just for us to explore new technologies and try out new things and see how it affects what we're trying to learn. But definitely, what I want to do, in following um, Hangouts is like I would try to get, what I would try to do is try to get a sense of how everything is working together, right? And maybe explain essentially from my vantage point, um, like my interpretation of what's happening in the background. I can only, try to describe it from a perspective of a Python Django user, right? And so if anybody else can also, as you're learning and trying to set up something, um, describe how they view, what's happening under the hood, that would be extremely valuable for the community. Um, the other thing is, we're not doing a standard Ruby app that you can just follow maybe from the Ruby tutorial. We are kind of doing something uh, with Mongo because that was a choice we made. So I'll also try to figure out Mongo and see how it all relates, and then share what I've learned in these hangouts where we'll also have like time to discuss. So today was really more about setup, and I think another portion of this hangout that I want to talk about was just how we want to design the architecture of the essentially the database models, like what we need, what does the user need, and then next week we can actually go through like implementing those models um, and returning user information or whatever at like certain URLs, and gradually we'll just create these. We'll create the app little by little. So maybe can I hear from I was a real and my prince. Um, thank you.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey man, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself because this is I was in a library studying and then I ran into some guy that was programming and then he was doing Node and then we just started talking and then he told me about the site so I joined up with it and I was I didn't really take notice to it and then all of a sudden I said let me check it out and I went online and I'm like going okay and I got on and I'm seeing how the community is just it's fantastic man it's great because I'm doing iOS now but I still have a love for Rails and doing front end stuff and I kind of bounce back and forth but I'm doing iOS I'm playing around with Swift a lot and Objective C but I still have a love for this stuff so and I'm just thinking to myself how amazing the community is everybody just sitting together and learning I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, man. I mean this is all like due to Linda. You should really be thanking her. I'm only just starting this one single hangout, but she definitely created the entire website, and it's her that I think we can all thank.
Oh, Linda, okay. I mean, just her name is Linda.
Yep, she's right here.
Oh, is she there?
Yeah.
Hey, Linda, hi. I don't know if you can hear me now, but thanks, because this is a great idea. I mean, it's just fantastic. So this is making me like, I want to get back into. I mean, I still got my chops. I'm still, playing around with it still, but I really I like the web stuff. So I like mobile too, but web is nice.
Right,
Well,
right.
thank you, Linda. This is a fantastic thing. Thank you.
So, Russell, do you have any thoughts? I mean, Okay, do we want to talk about essentially, so what we discussed last week um, is that this application is basically a simple platform where you can go in and basically record all the important dates in your life and then be able to share that with friends and family. So that's the basic gist of this application, right? And we decided that the backend will be Mongo, or the database will be Mongo. The backend will be in Rails, and then the front end, we decided it would be Angular. Okay, so I just want to do a quick poll. Um, you know, I am very against Angular right now because like there's no way that you can migrate to Angular 2, and it's already come out that Angular 2 is not going to be compatible with Angular 1. So there's kind of like I don't want to learn a new thing that's I know guaranteed is going to be obsolete, so to speak, right? So if that's not the case, I want to find a replacement for it. I just want to know if is there any other kind of front-end JavaScript library that people want to explore. If not, I mean, we could essentially just do this with like jQuery, I guess. It's not that complicated. We don't really need to do a front-end, use a front-end JavaScript framework. It's just really up to you guys.
What about React?
React is fine.
I mean, like I said, Angular I heard is it's in the beginning I heard it's okay, but as you get deeper, it gets kind of gnarly.
I think Angular, I am not. I think Angular is actually great, but like from what I've seen, and it does get kind of gnarly. But and I think that's the reason why Angular 2 is going to be incompatible, since they're trying to like fix a lot of like I guess foundational like, differences or mistakes. But it's I guess for the purpose of this Hangout, it's like it's very difficult for me to be like, oh yeah, let's learn Angular 1, and it's kind of like already like it's going to be replaced, right? So it's kind of like spending your time to learn something that's like going to be replaced.
So you think Angular is going to be replaced? You said
with Angular 2, right?
Okay, so, right.
Because Angular 1 is not there's no backwards compatibility, so it's kind of like it's not future proof.
Okay.
So I kind of want to know, are there any, because there's others. Okay, so let me just list them because I don't know if everybody knows what they are. So one of the Rob Eisenberg or Rob Eisenson or something, he was one of the core contributors with Angular, but left because of kind of differences of point of view to start a new web framework called Aurelia. Okay, there's also Ember. And Ember recently came out with an update, or the V1. I don't know. They were in beta for a long time, but finally I think they released something new that's like really modern, and it's pretty nifty, I think. So is Aurelia. I mean, all these things are. React definitely has changed the web world in general. But I think there's a few others out there as well. I don't want to make all the choices here. So it's definitely what the community wants.
Let me ask you a question. Do you Angular? Like I said, you guys are more experienced than I am, but I just Angular is what you think? Which you think is easier? To grasp, React or Angular?
I mean, I think they're all trying to do similar things in different ways. I think it's going to take time to learn any of them. Like the simple thing is to be like, hey, this is a simple application. You don't need a front end framework. But I guess the whole point of the Hangout is to explore and use a small subset so that everybody gets a little dabble, a little taste in it. So it doesn't really matter which one. I think it's the excitement of exploring something new. And if you don't have the time to do it because you're focused on something else, then the rest of the community can pick that up, and I'll record all these Hangouts and be able.
Okay, so basically the purpose of the Hangout is just kind of like building something together.
building something building something together, but trying to use technologies that you're just interested in. It's like
Right.
you're trying to learn, like everybody's trying to learn like maybe one or two certain things and get really good at it. But the web is moving so fast. There's like new technologies coming out like almost every single day. So sometimes you're just like, oh, what, Go sounds pretty cool, or like, what the heck is Docker, or all these like new open source stuff. You might want to just explore it and tinker. So I'm just trying to put a structure around it by saying, hey, let's just build a very simple application uh, with those technologies together.
Right. Right. I think it's great.
So is there any strong opinions about that? I'll give us some space to think, because I also want to just move on to talk about like the needs of the application, like what the back end should look like the data structure, and just start essentially drafting up like requirements. Are there no opinions? Okay, I mean, I think perhaps as we go along, maybe if there's somebody out there that has maybe we'll have React, because I think Linda suggested React, so why not let's just do React, unless there's an outcry and there's other stuff. Um, uh, so let's just like dabble with that, because I think it would be pretty simple. to get started with React to build our front end, and then interface with our back end through APIs and what have you. All right, so let's just land on that. It's kind of the new hot thing. There's probably a bunch of documentation about it, so it'll just help us all out greatly if we just decide on that. So can we have a quick discussion about, all right, so this is the application, right? We have to save events, important dates in our lives, and then we have to share it with friends and family. So kind of what are the considerations here? Like, where do you guys think that like how should the the database model look like, or how should we be, how should the user interact with the website? Like, should they log in? Should they just go in? Should they just like go to a page and just be able to like upload dates right away? Should it be integrated with Google or Facebook? I mean, what like how should it work? What are your thoughts on that?
So what we would be doing is personal calendar for everyone, or it would be like a social thing, everybody can.
I think it was I think what we decided last week was it's just a very simple application to just upload your important dates in your life, and so that you can share it with friends and family. And yeah, maybe there's some sort of like integration where they'll get reminded as the date gets closer. But we weren't really trying to build a super complicated, like, we're not trying to make a startup out of this, right? So it was just like a very simple application. Yeah, and we're using Mongo for the backend.
And any specific reason why Mongo?
It was just, I mean, it was just what we decided, what we talked about last week. So again, if you guys have really strong opinions, I'm not making the choices. I'm just clicking the buttons after someone tells me like to do something.
Right. Actually, I don't know much about Mongo, so I just wanted to know why we are selecting. So I tried to search, read about MongoDB online, but like maybe I didn't reach any good topic, good article which gives me a comparison between MongoDB and others. So what are your thoughts about MongoDB and like why it would be different?
So so essentially, like MongoDB is a non-relational data store, right? So it's not like your typical like SQL databases.
Right.
Essentially, it is a JSON document. I think they call it BSON, B-S-O-N. Okay, and it essentially looks exactly like a JSON object, and that's how you store your data. So they've provided kind of an API around that and all that sort of stuff, but essentially you're saving almost like to a document. And what it does is, and why it's popular with like JavaScript developers, and that's why you hear the meme stack, is because it's essentially like you're saving JSON right into the database. And obviously, Mongo itself is not as simple as that, because they have to have a lot of architecture to allow you to query things, and there's a lot of like reliability issues that they have to deal with. So of course, the platform itself is like super complex. But I think from a layman's perspective, that's the difference. And when you're working with it, it makes it faster because you don't have to migrate your database. So like if you add a column,
Okay.
If you add a column, like if you're working with a Postgres or MySQL, um, are you on the channel? Yeah, if everybody can join that channel in Code Buddies, that's great. But I think we're probably gonna close the conversation soon. But on the topic, yeah. So basically, it's it just makes migrations. It eliminates migrations, and if you want to change something, it just allows you to do that because essentially you're just creating like another key value pair in that in the document or in the object.
Okay. Thanks.
I like MongoDB just because of how simple it is. It doesn't require a lot of setting up, and it doesn't require a lot of forward thinking, as you said. Like, you don't have to do a bunch of migrations.
Right.
So you can kind of build the database as you go.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just what kind of makes it like a lot more easy for like you just hack together something. So it's like for fast iteration. Although there's like separate considerations once you actually need to like build a large scalable business. Maybe Mongo is not the best tool for that. I mean, depending on your needs. But if you're just kind of like trying to throw something together, it's great for that because just like Russ said, doesn't require too much overhead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. All right. So I think like we're kind of winding down, and I think I covered what I wanted to cover today, just to get everybody set up on a same kind of development environment. But definitely like try to clone and fork the repo. Let's try to contribute and join definitely the Slack channel on Code Buddies because that's probably where I'll be most of the time. If you have any questions or what have you, you can reach out to me. And what I'll probably do is like this live stream will be saved. It's probably like super boring with a bunch of like silence in the middle and just me talking. But what I'll try to do is I'll maybe create like screencasts of how I set up Vagrant or I set up VirtualBox, and I'll upload it to my channel, and people can follow with that. And I hope you guys join next week. And hopefully this will be a quarterly thing. So thanks guys for essentially participating today and giving me your feedback. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Yeah, look forward to next week.
Hosting.
Yeah, of course. I mean, feel free to just chime in and speak up and, like give me your thoughts as well. So, till next time when we're actually collaborating, hopefully we'll have less technical difficulties.
Yeah.
All right, guys. All right, have a good evening, morning, or afternoon.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Okay. Bye.